How often have you wondered, are you making the right choice? Are you choosing the right media to reach your customer? Well, you know, it's a lot harder today than it used to be. Why? Well, mainly because back in the day, there were fewer choices. And when I say back in the day, I'm only talking 20 years. There was TV, there was newspaper, there was billboard, there was the guy walking back and forth with the sandwich boards. No, that was longer than 20 years ago. And of course, there was the standard telephone book, which today, I don't know how many households you're going to see this in. But some people still use them. They're still out there. The problem is today we have a lot more choices. Some people say that's a problem. Some people say that's a good thing. Really, that's up to you. Still makes a difference today whether you're spending much, and typically budget makes a big difference in advertising no matter where you're advertising, whether it's on social media, whether it's on any kind of streaming type of service. Still, the top advertisers are the top advertisers. In fact, I want you to look at this. The top 200 advertisers spend more than all the advertisers combined in the U.S. That's right. 200 advertisers spend more than every other advertiser in the United States. That's billions of dollars. Now here's a few facts about media today you need to think about. Traditional mass media advertising is still the best for overall awareness and response. But competing is not easy. Older and less affluent people tend to watch more of the traditional TV. Young people tend to watch TV on mobile and streaming services. Now Facebook has the majority of older social media users. And when I say majority, I mean the vast majority, but less than 20% of the organic posts are seen by your followers, let alone shared. Younger people tend to use more Instagram, Snapchat, Tumblr, etc. You know, it's great to target them that way, but they're a little bit harder to get at. Now here's a few considerations when it comes to media and budget. Now if you have more time than budget, you might want to consider focusing on social media. That may be better for you. I don't want you to think it's free, because it's not. I mean, if you boost a post or you post an ad, those cost money, and that's a great way to do it because I said earlier, just taking Facebook, for example, with the largest audience, people only see about 20% of original posts that are made unless you boost them or unless you pay for ads. But if you do have more time than budget, you might want to spend, at least now, the majority of that time developing social media posts and a social media campaign. Now, what if you have a commercial business and most people search for your type of business? Now let's talk for a second about Google AdWords. In some sense, it's kind of like both mass and social media, especially if you have a searchable type of business. You might search first for. For example, you build concrete driveways, you put in concrete driveways, or you industrial washing, or some sort of service that might kind of cross over as a commercial type of service. Well, if it's a commercial type service, it's a good bet people will try to search on Google or some other search engine. In that case, paid search is always good. And if, let's say you're in a local market, let's say that they're searching for driveways, you want a driveway put in. Well, they might search on Google, but you might also benefit from mass marketing in your market. In other words, you might have TV and also do paid search on Google. That would probably, in your case, probably work best. And you might want to also then use social media to back up or support your mass marketing. But in any event, I would do special tests on any promos you do on social media just to see what kind of response you get. You run a special on the driveway, run a special on whatever commercial service you're offering. See if you are, in fact, getting some response via social media. If you have the time, it's definitely worth the effort. And here's a few considerations when it comes to budget and media choice. Which media can you afford to spend enough budget on to make a real impact? Which media has the majority of your customers? Which media best fits your message? Do you want to do branding, which is primarily name recognition? Do you want to do positioning with some testimonials, something that'll set you apart and differentiate you? Or do you want to do a call to action? You tend to do that when you have a service like a restaurant or some sort of common or daily use type of product where you're trying to beat out the competitor with price, maybe with a special offer, a coupon, or some sort of promotion. Okay, here's some suggestions. Here's where I want you to start. First, do the research. See what your competitors are doing. Really analyze what others are doing in other markets that have a similar business to yours. Then test. Don't commit to a year-long program. See what works. Try a few different things and consider them tests instead of something that you rely on right off the bat. Now, here's the thing I want to tell you, and I have a lot of friends that sell media, but you honestly have to avoid being the salesperson's friend. I don't mean you can't be friendly, but I've seen people tend to buy too much of a certain type of media only because the salesperson is their friend. They buy billboards when they really shouldn't be buying any at all, or they should be just buying a few. They're buying phone book ads when very few people are using phone books, etc. So it's great to have friends, both at work and outside work, but don't make the media salesperson your friend, or it could end up unfairly influencing your media buy. I want to remind you also that a donation is not advertising. Clients I have and people that I advise, I see that they make a donation to the symphony, they're in a program ad. That's not advertising. If it's seen at all, it has very little impact except to be appreciated by perhaps the board of directors of that nonprofit. Do not consider that advertising. That is a donation. I want you to concentrate on just one or two media at a time. You really can't do much more than that if you're new at this game and are just starting out and want to make an impact. Focus on just one or two media at a time. I want you to remember that different media work better with different messages. Frankly, if you're doing just a discount type of program and you're a commodity type business or a common business like a restaurant, something that there are lots of. For example, in the suburb that I live in, there's more than 55 restaurants. And this is just a small suburb of 40,000 people. So if you're going to do a discount on a meal or something like that, you're probably just as well doing it in one of those direct mail coupon type things. It's going to have just as much impact. On the flip side, if you want to make an impression as far as the quality and create awareness, then you probably want to do television, for example. And that varies market to market and business to business, but of course different media work better with different messages. And lastly, I want you to remember that media branding versus positioning versus call to action. Those are three different things. You use certain media just for branding, certain media for positioning, and certain for just call to action. For example, if you're just trying to get awareness of your name and the market happens to be people with children, well, yeah, you could put up a banner at the local Little League ball field. You could do things as simple as name recognition everywhere you go, from billboards to, as I said, banners at ball games. But if you want to get into positioning, you need a media that's going to allow you to do some positioning, and that's probably going to be television, it's going to be videos, it's going to be the type of media that will allow you to have a larger message. And then again, call to action, as we mentioned before, that could be as simple as a coupon. So that would mean a different media. That could be just direct mail. Typically, there are three strategies that will cover pretty much most situations. First of all, the very small budget. Well, I think it's clear you'd probably be best off using social media, at least mostly social media. Then boost your post or use targeted paid ads. And you may use more Snapchat or Pinterest instead of just Facebook because, as I mentioned, Facebook, if you're just using original posts and not paid, it's very tough to get more than 17-20% of your posts seen. Now, if you have a medium budget, spend most of it on mass media if you can for your branding and positioning, and then the balance on social media. It makes a nice combination, although most of it I would keep on mass media. Now, if you've got a bigger budget, definitely spend most on mass media. If you're in a local market and you could afford it, then use your social media to back up or support the mass media. That allows you to do some special promos or tests like that on social media. You could have a contest. You could have a promotion that's just on Facebook, just on Snapchat, just on Instagram, just on Twitter. There's a lot of great things you could do if you have a bigger budget and you're in a market that's a local market. Try one of those three things depending on your budget, and I think those will cover most situations for you. Here's one more thing to think about. The X factor. It's not just which media that determines success. It's what you say and how you say it. It's that creative concept, that message that gets across to people and touches them, that gets their attention and really connects with them and then ignites them to action. You could have the best media selection in the world, but if your message is blah, if it doesn't move people, if it doesn't connect with them and stand out, well, you're going to be back to square one. Okay, creative is critical. Content is important, and I want you to keep watching because we're going to have some videos specifically about creative and content. But meanwhile, follow the tips I just gave you in this video because it's very important how you choose which media to reach your customers.